I'm gonna get comfortable eventually. God damn it, beanbag chair. Yep, sure, that'll do. Okay, now for real, we'll start.
The chosen one beanbag here.
Damn right. Hey everyone, I am the Chosen One Legend here. As I completely forgot my intro because I was thinking about beanbags. Sorry. Hi guys, I'm the Chosen One Legend here, as always joined by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Kai, also known as Fascurreyn.
And welcome back to another botched video of BunchaJokahs podcast, where we talk all about different video game news and stuff from the past month. And April has just been the time of dates changing, delays and moving games forward. It's kind of been mad, hasn't it, Kai?
It has been pretty crazy, like that's the majority of the information we've been given this month is dates of games releases changing rather than content on the actual games themselves for the most part. So it's been pretty interesting, but you know, the release dates moving around aren't always a bad thing.
It's true, that gives us plenty more to talk about here. And I should straight up say that, of course, big new Xenoblade trailer. We did already talk about that for 3 hours or so. Which, if you're watching this, you've probably seen at least one of those videos, but if not, go check those out for our thoughts on the trailer. But here, there's still plenty more to discuss, including a bit more about Xenoblade. There will be timestamps in the description below if you want to look about between the different sections we have. But unlike this month, let's not delay things any further. Let's get straight on with the podcast. And our first segment, Can't Have a Podcast Without News, baby, where we talk about the different news highlights that have been happening this month. And I want to start things off here. Now, the Sonic movie, the second one, released this month. It finally came out and it's been doing pretty well in the cinema. I mean, especially considering it's going up against Morbius, and that's a terrifying David
Best
versus
movie
Goliath.
of all time.
Exactly. So how does it compete? But it's managing. It's currently the best-selling domestic video game movie, I believe. So
Oh,
do
really?
Yes, not internationally. I think that still goes to like Warhammer or something like that. Warframe, one of those. So, but domestically, it's doing very well. And I wanted to quickly mention it because I did see the movie. Now, if I'm correct, you haven't seen it yet, Kai?
Correct. I've not done it yet. I do plan on it eventually, but I've already been like spoiled on a couple tiny bits. So.
Right. Maybe when it comes to Netflix, inevitably in a few months' time.
That would be cool, yeah.
But I will say, I quite enjoyed it. I've mentioned before in this podcast that the first one I thought was good, but was held back by like the human aspects of it. It stopped it from feeling special and just made it a bit generic. And they definitely improved that in the second one. I won't go into any spoilers or anything, but as someone who never played much Sonic but did play Sonic Heroes as a kid, just seeing the main three, Sonic, Tails and Knuckles, all interacting together on screen, it is good. You know, the performances are all great, the dynamics really work, and there's some really solid action scenes in this film, so I think it is a step up from the first one in just giving you a bit more of that special feeling if you're a fan of Sonic, and a bit more nostalgia in there. Plus Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik continues to be a highlight. But yeah, in general, I think it just takes what the first film did and makes it a bit more unique. And hopefully that continues, because we know there's a third one coming eventually. But yeah, solid film. Still not as good as Detective Pikachu, I will hold that up. That film deserves more love. But I think it's good. Check it out, Kai, whenever you can, eventually.
I will try.
Unfortunately, I know we went to cinema together to see the first one, but that was pre-COVID times.
Indeed, it was. Yeah, it does seem like the first film. I don't know if I said this on the podcast before. Probably not. But the first film to me kind of felt like, you know, I thought it was very good, but you could probably replace Sonic with like any other like fictional creature that you've then decided is fast, and like the movie would basically be the same. It
follows the template of like CGI creature brought to the real world, like Alvin and the Chipmunks or Smurfs or Hop or whatever, so...
Yeah, and although I think they did it really well, that was still the case, but this second movie seems to definitely be more distinctive and more Sonic than
definitely.
The first, which is good.
Yeah, so it's a good sign for hopefully the third one being good. Time will tell. But let's move on to some other news here. Actually getting into the video game stuff now. And before we get into all the delays, we have something that's sticking to its release date, thank God. Fire Emblem Three Hopes. We got a new trailer. And in particular, I think the biggest reveal of this is we've got a new protagonist, a new, I don't want to say blank slate protagonist, but you know, one where you can pick the gender of, called Shez.
Right.
Shez, one of those.
Indeed.
Indeed. And Byleth is the antagonist, which, not a turn I was expecting. What do you think about that, Kai?
I was very surprised, and the first thing I thought was, man, how did none of us realise that like this was a possibility? Because like in the first trailer, Byleth was never shown being playable. So I'm like sort of cringing at myself for not realising that this was the case before now. But I really like the concept. So are we allowed to talk about Three Houses spoilers, or is that?
Yeah, we'll say Three Houses spoilers here, so skip ahead to the next section
Okay.
if you don't want to know anything.
Yeah, so one thing you learn in Three Houses is the thing about, you know, Byleth, like, not having a heart, I believe it is, or, like, there's something weird going on inside. It's been a while since I played it. But, you know, it kind of makes sense that she doesn't, or she, he, I'm going to call Byleth a she here.
Yeah.
That Byleth is a demon of sorts, because they are called the Ashen Demon in places.
Right.
And...
I said right, yeah. I'm agreeing.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, like, so it kind of makes sense that they've now sort of twisted this narrative. Something different has happened in the world where, rather than Byleth being the good guy, you know, now that, you know, they're sort of harnessing their whole side of, I don't have a heart, I'm the Ashen Demon, and they are sort of going evil with it. And I like it. I think it really fits the character, especially, you know, them being a very silent, emotionless character in a lot of places. I think that it really fits, so I'm curious on how that is going to fit into the story and kind of morph things.
Yeah, it's a nice unique twist on things, and we don't know still exactly what this means, you know, how exactly is this going to compare to the main game's roots? Is it just like, are these even more roots, or is it just like, there's a bigger twist on it? Are they going to do some weird shit with time travel again? Like, who knows?
Maybe.
you can't guess at this point, but we do know that there are 3 routes in this game, like before. And just having this twist on its head that Byleth, you know, your protagonist from the first game is the antagonist, that alone makes it much more interesting than it was for me before. I mean, I was already interested in this game, I've already pre-ordered it, but this definitely adds a new, unique twist to things that makes you interested in where the story can go, other than just another route on top of the ones we already have. And I do wonder, do you think Byleth is going to, like, join your side at any point? I'm assuming they're probably not the primary antagonist, but...
It's really tough to tell. Like, I'm so curious about this game's story. Because it's like, you know, we know that there's different routes, but it's like, well, are the bosses the same in them? Is it going to follow exactly the same, or is Byleth going to change things? Because, of course, Byleth not being on the protagonist's side here and being evil, it's like that really will shift things around in the game.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
I honestly have no idea how this is going to change things.
Interestingly, we do see that there seems to be, like, another goddess, like an opposite to Sophis of sorts, who seems to be with Shez. We see that quite prominently on the box art, as well as a bit in the trailer. So, it would be interesting to see who is this, presumably goddess. What relationship does she have to Sophis? There's a lot of questions, and I'm not knowledgeable enough in Fire Emblem, having only played one route, to really theorise very much, but it definitely makes it interesting.
It does. I'm so looking forward to this game releasing, because even though I don't immediately plan on getting it, although I might, I'm really curious about how the story's going to change, because we've already seen, like, the new time skip designs.
They're looking
finally
nice.
They gave Mercedes some like good time skip hair. And like there's just like all the other bits of the story, you know, how are all of the routes going to change, how are like boss fights going to be played out, all that sort of thing. There's so much at stake here, and I'm really excited, because Fire Emblem Three Houses I thought was a brilliant game story wise, but I you know, would have wanted them to explore the world even more than they already did and kind of further things on. So now that we're kind of seeing that in a lot of areas and a lot of these cutscenes, for example, seeing Holst, Hilda's sister, for example, Hilda's brother, I mean, it's just like, it seems like they really are expanding the world more. You know, Monica being playable by the looks of it. So I'm really happy to see that, and I'm hoping that there's maybe like a golden route.
There might be.
That would be very nice. I'd really enjoy that.
Just want everyone to be happy for once.
Yeah, it was something that I know some people wanted and some people didn't in the original, and I would love to see that here, just because it's satisfying, even if you don't want it to be canon.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I mean, we haven't really talked much about the gameplay. I don't think there's too much more to say here, other than it seems to really be combining Warriors gameplay, but unlike Fire Emblem Warriors, it seems to be incorporating a lot of unique Fire Emblem mechanics in there from Three Houses and sort of merging the two. Like the more recent games have sort of done, like how Age of Calamity merged in Breath of the Wild mechanics a bit more. So I think it's going to be a really fun time. I'm definitely looking forward to getting it in June and then speeding through it in a month before Xenoblade. Because...
True.
Oh god, the time schedules.
Yeah, tell me about it.
But that does provide us the perfect segue to talk a little bit about Xenoblade 3. Now, as I said, we're not going to go into the trailer because we've already discussed that intensively, and we even talked about it being pushed back and how we have mixed feelings about that, or pushed back, so I pushed forward even, the complete opposite of that, to July. But along with it, I do want to mention what we didn't talk about, is there's a special edition coming out as well, which Nintendo have yet to drop, and it's causing me anxiety because I know I'm going to miss it. The wait is painful, but it comes with a steelbook and an art book. Pretty standard, nothing quite as unique as we got with like the vinyl with Xenoblade Definitive Edition, but still pretty sweet looking. I'm liking that box art. How about you, Kai? You planning on picking it up?
Cool, yeah. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
I'm very much on the alert to see when that drops.
Yes.
But yeah, as you say, like it looks pretty cool. It's what you'd expect from this kind of collector's special edition type thing. And yeah, the artwork is really cool. It really is reminiscent of some of the official artwork they had for Xenoblade 2, if you recall, where like Rex is in the front, and then you've got all the different characters going up with the sword in the middle. Very, very reminiscent of that sort of thing, and yeah, I just think it looks great, so I'm really looking forward to picking it up.
I will say, is there anything that you wish that would have been in the collector's edition? Anything particular you'd want it to have, like a proper vinyl soundtrack like DE, or like a figurine or something, or are you content with this?
Well, any of those features I'd always appreciate having in there. So things like the vinyl would be wonderful, but you know, at the same time, I've not really got many collector's editions. I think Xenoblade Definitive Edition is the only one I actually have.
Same, actually.
Like any game.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'll just take what they give. I'm happy with whatever they've provided within it. But yeah, if they do have more, you know, I'd like things like whatever, like I don't know, keychains. I guess that's that kind of.
You know what? They still never sent me my Monado keychain with Definitive Edition.
They didn't.
They didn't.
Oh,
I even messaged them like saying it didn't come through, and I'm like, okay, we'll send you another one. That didn't happen, and at that point I was like, I don't need another keychain. I'm not that bothered enough to keep messaging. But still, I'm still salty.
Still salty.
Damn right.
It seems cool though. It seems very cool.
It does. So yeah, we are suitably hyped for Xenoblade 3, and again, check out our 3 50-minute long videos if you want to hear more about our in-depth thoughts on the trailer. But whilst one game gets pushed forward, another game gets knocked all the way back, and that is Splatoon 3. Because we found out in a new trailer that showed off some Turf War stuff that Splatoon 3 is now releasing in September. They have swapped release dates. And before we talk about the trailer itself, what do you think about this switching of dates, Kai?
At first, I was not very happy at all.
Yeah.
The reason being that with Xenoblade's release date, I can't play that while I'm on holiday. So that's kind of thrown a wrench into the works.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, well, I can just play Splatoon 3 while I'm on holiday. But no, that's been pushed back, so I can't do that either. So I was a bit like, well, this is terrible. However, thinking about it, I'm actually kind of happy with it now. You know, I think it was a good idea for me personally, at least. Because it kind of means that Xenoblade is going to be coming first, and you know, we'll have, what is it, like a month, I guess, 2 months to play through that.
Yeah.
And then it means like by the time Splatoon comes out, people will either be done with Xenoblade 3 or they're already like pretty invested in it. They're pretty far along. Of course, I don't think people would have. Not a lot of people would have like completed Xenoblade 3 fully, like 100% and all by the first 2 months, but at least progress. Where once that's done, Splatoon 3 comes out and people can actually get invested in it, rather than the other way round. If Splatoon released first, then as soon as Xenoblade comes out, I know a lot of people would immediately drop Splatoon 3 and struggle to get back into it. So
that makes sense. Yeah.
I actually think this works good for players. My only gripe with it is that, of course, this isn't the case in Japan because of their school dates being different. But in a lot of places like, Europe and I think America as well, like for anyone who's still in school, having the release date be the beginning of September is like the worst possible time because they're all just going back to school.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's not really a summer release anymore.
Yeah. I will say for me, being again completely selfishly here, it works out kind of nicely because on the one hand, I get Xenoblade earlier, but that also means that Splatoon 3 is releasing in a bit of a less busy time. As far as we currently know. Who knows what other Nintendo's going to announce E3 time, that sort of period. But for now, that means I'm more likely to pick up Splatoon 3, whereas I thought I was going to pass it over if it was going to come out earlier. So hopefully this means I'll be able to try out both. Again, who knows what Nintendo are going to throw at us. I think it must just be a case of Splatoon 3 needs a bit more development time and Xenoblade 3 happened to be ready early because Monolith Soft are gods, so let's just switch them over. But works out in the long run, really. And I will say now, to talk a bit more about the trailer itself, they showed us just a full game of Turf Wars, and I, having not really played 2, I've only watched Chugga's playthrough of it and some of your guys' streams, I didn't really notice too much stand out, but what did you notice, Kai, in what they showed off? You're probably going to know better than I would.
Yeah, so there were a couple new things. Overall, it is, like you say, the game looks very similar, apart from some very minor sort of artistic changes or whatever, and some gameplay differences. The game, it still looks and feels like Splatoon. It's not like a complete overhaul of anything.
Yeah.
So, it's still Splatoon. As for the changes, I noticed a couple bits here and there, so just sort of going through off the top of my head, because I've not made any notes for this, there seems to be like a new squid jump into the battle. Rather than having spawn points, you're on these, I don't even know what you call them. Are they like tiny washing machine things?
Like hovering washing machines, yeah, they kind of look like it.
Yeah, which is funny because sloshing machines are already in the game.
That's true.
But yeah, you kind of spawn in using those now. You like launch yourself to where your spawn would pretty much normally be. You can also see where your allies are going with that as well, so that seems like a pretty cool way to start the battle. I'm not sure in terms of like the game theory on why that is, but I like it. It seems dynamic. It's cool. So that's one thing. There's within battle, it seems like in squid form, there's like a kind of new jump by the looks of it. Like when you're swimming one direction and then suddenly jump in the other. I couldn't quite tell if it was like a new mechanic or it was just the way it looks.
I mean, spinning is a good trick, so I think it looks kind of effective in that way, Kai.
Yeah, it might just be like a new visual change more than anything else. But
maybe it adds like a dodge effect, like means you can dodge certain stuff easier. I don't really know the mechanics well enough. I'm completely spitballing here, but that was what it looked like.
Yeah. It does seem like a new physics thing where like normally if you were to do that in Splatoon 1 or 2, you were suddenly to like jump the opposite way mid-swim. I believe like it would just, bring your momentum to a stop and then start bringing it up the other way like regular physics.
Yeah.
But it does kind of look like they've changed it here. So, hey, that's cool. It seems more competitive. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot. There was a
new specials, really, isn't it?
Yeah, there's the one new weapon, the bow, which I believe has a name. I don't remember what it is. Maybe just the splat bow.
It's a safe bet.
Yeah, that seems cool. It seems like there's a version that can shoot in 3 different directions at once, much like the Tri-Slosher. But that's really all we've seen from that. There's a couple new sub-weapons. The one that I see most people pointing out is there's like a new point sensor. So rather than like the versions in the other games where, you know, you throw it and then it's like an area of effect, this seems to be like a very sharp, almost like a sniper type sort of arc with the move, where it travels really quickly, like instantaneous, across the map in one really thin sort of reticle. Which I think is actually like quite good. It makes that sub-weapon more useful, because the whole point of it is being able to track enemy locations. So by being able to like do a sharp jab across the field is very useful. And then apart from that, it's pretty much all the focus is on the new specials, because of course every game has completely new ones, and they look good. What do you think about them?
I mean, like I said, I don't understand the mechanics enough to like go into like the different gameplay advantages of each and how effective they'll be with weapon combos or anything like that. To me, it's just like, these look fun to use, I'm sure. So, I mean, I will say one thing is, although this trailer was good and it does show off some new stuff, it still, from what we've seen so far, it all feels, apart from the first trailer, I'd say, it feels like it could just be an update to Splatoon 2 almost, doesn't it? Like, I still think, and this is probably because of the pushback and of the release date, that there's more to see. There's like, what is this game's unique thing that makes it worthy of being free rather than just additional stuff to 2? I think there will be a reason, and I think we're going to see that. The reason we probably haven't is because it's being pushed back and they want to do a big blowout of Splatoon, probably in like a June Direct or whatever. I've seen some people speculating that because they've been showing off these trailers, maybe there's not going to be a big Direct and they're just going to do trailers like they did back in 2020. But I don't think that's the case. I think the reason why we got these 2 specific trailers here is because they needed to let us know that Xenoblade was releasing earlier, and they can't wait to do that. And the same with Splatoon 3. They needed to let us know of these release date changes, and they couldn't wait till June to do that. So it makes sense.
And they really didn't have to like expend a ton of resources into just recording one Splatoon match basically for the trailer.
No, exactly.
So I do agree. I think it's like fair to predict that, because there's no E3 this year, we'll probably get some kind of a Nintendo Direct in the summer to replace it. And within that, there'll be a lot of focus on Splatoon 3's new features. I completely agree on that sort of thing happening.
Yeah, so it's looking promising though. I'm definitely looking forward to hopefully trying this out, fingers crossed. It's also really cool that they released Octo Expansion for free on NSO. I mean, I don't have Splatoon 2.
It's really nice.
So I can't play it. But that's
actually, I'm chuffed with that.
Yeah, I don't know if this is just a unique case, but the fact that they're doing retroactive DLCs, like maybe they eventually do it with the Smash Fighters part or something, that's just cool. So even though I've bought most of them already, it's still cool.
Yeah, it is a very nice feature. I suppose one other thing I actually forgot to mention about Splatoon 3's new stuff is they have a new starting and ending screen for the battle. So at the beginning, everyone has like name cards now, sort of following on from games like Animal Crossing. That's very cool. I think it's charming. So I'm hoping that there's like a lot of options on what you can do with buying those tags and stuff. Because I never had this problem, but apparently a complaint a lot of people had about Splatoon 2 was that by this point, people have like nothing to spend their money on because all the content's finished. I personally am broke in the game because I stopped playing it a little before. People. Of course, I'm not still playing it nowadays. I stopped after maybe 6 months, so I'm still broke and haven't got all the weapons in the game technically. But maybe this will provide a good way for people to spend their money if these name tags cost money.
That's true.
Like, again, in-game currency, not microtransactions. Dear God. But hopefully that's like a good thing for that. And then there's also the end battle screens where they've kind of got like a new design for it, where like all the characters come in one by one with their animations, and then they have like different awards at the end of battle too, like a lot of shooters do.
Yeah, that's a nice touch.
It does look very neat. It shows that in that respect they have updated things, so that's definitely nice.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's looking good. Definitely gonna keep an eye on more news for Splatoon 3.
Yeah.
But our final piece of news for the month, and another thing that's got pushed back, is the Mario movie, which was meant to be released in December this year and is now being pushed back. Basically, it's getting the Breath of the Wild 2 treatment to spring next year. April 7th in America, I believe, and a bit later in Japan. I don't think they've announced the Europe release date yet. But anyway, about April time anyway. Which, interesting. I mean, I personally don't care too much about this, but it does make me wonder, is this film having problems, or is it just simply a matter of they think it's a better month for about what other movies they'll be competing with and stuff, and they think they'll make more money that time? I don't know. What do you think?
I'm not sure. Yeah, it's a very tough one to tell.
Yeah.
I just like the tweet. Chris Sun.
Yeah. And the things, everyone thinks he means Chris Pratt, but he doesn't. He means the guy who's helping, like, on Universal's side create the film. Yeah, but everyone thinks he means Chris Pratt.
Damn.
It's something. But
it's great.
It is. That's probably the best thing to come out of this, is just Miyamoto just tweeting from Nintendo like, "Hi guys, Miyamoto here, how's it going?" It's
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah, do you think this film might be in trouble? Do you think it's going to be good? What are your thoughts at the moment?
It is a very difficult one to tell, because the history of video game movies, especially for Mario, would tell you this is going to be a huge disaster. You know, especially just because we don't know much about it still.
And because Chris Pratt is voicing Mario?
Yeah, that too. Like, it's questionable what direction they're going to go in. But at the same time, you know, recent movies, Detective Pikachu, Sonic movies, would tell us that actually there's a lot of hope to be had here. So basically, this could be either the best or worst animated video game movie of all time.
Yeah. I am just purely fascinated by this. It's not like, if they were like making like a big live action Zelda movie, I would be so like, please make this be really good. I want this to be done well. But with this animated Mario movie, I'm like, I'm not really bothered either way. I just want it to be fascinating. I just want to be intrigued by it, whether it be a complete dumpster fire or it be a fun film. And I just want to find out. I'm holding out for that trailer still. That's probably the biggest sad thing about this, is we're not going to get a trailer anytime soon now. But
yeah,
I'm intrigued.
But I do think it's fun to actually speculate the plot for this movie. Like,
yeah.
You know, what would the Mario movie plot be? What setting is it even going to be in? Are they going to do like the prehistoric times like they did for the
cartoon
Super Mario Bros. Show?
Yeah.
Or are they going to go like modern day like Sonic, where Mario's just like he's just like in New York, and he's just like...
We do know that Foreman Spike is in it, who was like Mario's boss in the construction site in Wrecking Crew, so that implies it's probably going to be modern. I mean, it's still an animated film, not a live action one, but it might have some real world stuff in it, maybe.
That's the thing. Do you think it's going to open with like, "Hey, I'm Mario, and I'm a plumber in New York City"? Is it, or like, I don't know. I feel like there's going to be something there where they're going to open up the movie and he's just a plumber, and the movie is about like him becoming, you know, Jumpman Mario. I don't know.
I think that is honestly quite plausible. Again, it's going to be a wild ride, and I'm just so hyped just to find out what this is. I don't care if it's good or not. I just want to see what they're doing with it. So bring on the trailer.
I'm really looking forward to, more than anything else, I'm looking forward to what if they're going to like. What references are they going to include, basically? Because if they start bringing in references to, like, you know, some of the side Mario games, of course they're going to reference Mario Kart, you know that.
Yeah, yeah.
But, like, I wonder if they're going to bring in stuff from, like, the Paper Mario series and bits like that, even if it's just, like, character names or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated to just in general, even outside of Chris Pratt as Mario, he's a good voice actor, but what's he going to be like as Mario? There's a lot of a good cast in this. Like, Jack Black as Bowser is perfect. So
it is.
I know we've talked about this, you know, a year ago when they showed it off, but it's still definitely potential to be good and fun. At the very least, fun.
Yeah.
So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll find out more eventually. But that does bring us to the end of the news. So let's get things cracking on to our next segment of the podcast, the final segment. games time, baby, where we mention some games that we've been playing this past month or so. And I've got 2 games to talk about, so I think I'm going to start things off here. The first game that I played right at the start of the month, and in fact it was mostly last month really, was Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which it's almost hard for me to remember this because I got 100% in it within a week. So it's not a long game, and I also was off with COVID, so I had free time to just binge it. But honestly, really solid game. It's a Kirby brought to 3D. It's exactly what it looks like. It's not going to be much more than what you think, but it does what you'd expect, and it does it damn well. I mean, Kirby just translates to 3D in the same sort of 3D world style, where everything just sort of blends. It takes these sort of like 2D exploration that you're used to with Kirby, that style, but just gives it the extra dimension. And you do lose a few things in the way, I will say. One of the big problems is, I don't want to say problem, but one of the big differences is you have quite less copy abilities in this game than usual. And the copy abilities you do have don't have as much depth to them as in the 2D games. Because the 2D games, you know, they rely largely on different kind of input combinations, which just doesn't work in 3D. So the moves are a bit more basic, but they keep it fresh by having different upgrades to the abilities that can make things wild as it gets later on. And each one works perfectly in 3D, and the levels are perfectly designed around them, where there's certain areas where you can just have whatever one you like, but there's certain areas where it's very clearly designed around a few power-ups, and using them will help you out. It's just a really solidly designed game. And as you'd expect from Kirby, it is bloody charming to a ridiculous level. You've got like a button just to make Kirby wave to people, and that's all you need. You just need Kirby waving. It's like taunting in Smash as Kirby. It's not crude, it's wholesome. You can't get angry when it's Kirby taunting at you in Smash, you know. He's adorable. And the music...
It's Kirby for you.
Exactly, and the music is really top tier, especially as we get onto the later worlds. I think the early worlds are fun but a bit basic, but the later ones are surprisingly atmospheric for a Kirby game. The Snow World in particular, this is one of those have me put the controller down and just take in what I was looking at. But the carnival, the open desert you see, and some later stuff which, if you know anything about Kirby games, you know that they get bloody wild and apocalyptic. Apocalyptic. There we go. Towards the end. I can speak. But things get crazy, and if you want some challenge in there, because Kirby is, you know, not a difficult game, take on the true arena and the boss rush that you have to do with that. And I was sweating at the end. I literally, I was playing in my living room on the family TV, and my family were around me. And when I finally beat it, it was my first try, but it was very close. I just inhaled deeply, and my parents just looked at me like, "You're playing Kirby, mate." What? But it was tense, it was fun, and if you want that extra challenge, it is there. But in general, you're just going to have a fun time going through it. Some of the music, again, like I said, is great. The remix of King Dedede's theme is honestly one of the best music tracks I've heard this year. I mean, not quite great Ace Attorney levels, but you know, it's still good. That's a high bar. And co-op is fun if you want to play it through with a friend. Can't complain about Bandana D. So, yeah, all in all, it's just another chill Kirby game brought into 3D and done well. And if you're interested, give it a shot. That's pretty much it. Kirby.
Yeah, definitely seems like a good, solid, just like it's a good Kirby game. You know what I mean? So
it is. That's pretty much it. It's a good 3D Kirby game. It doesn't break the grounds, you know, break the mold in the way that Breath of the Wild did or Odyssey, but it still was a really charming, fun
it's a
game.
Really farming game, yeah.
I mean,
Kirby, Rice and Ruin. There you go.
I would play that. I mean, granted, you know, there's a fishing mini game in there. There's like a waitress service mini game. There's no reason why there couldn't be a farming mini game. There isn't, but there could have been. But yeah, it's good. But what have you been playing, Kai? What have you been going through this month?
This was not one I really had prepared before a week or two ago, but I have been playing a little bit this month of Slay the Spire. this has been on my PlayStation activity, so I wasn't sure if you'd actually seen it or not.
I heard you mention it a little bit. Yeah, I know it was one of the PS Plus games, wasn't it?
Yes, so it was on PS Plus for this month, the month that we've just had. I don't know if it'll still be there by the time the video goes up. But yeah, it's one of those, and I've heard a lot of good things about Slay the Spire. I've heard that it's a very solid game. It is a roguelike deck builder, so much like Dicey Dungeons, which is another game I've put a lot of hours into. So I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. It's free, doesn't hurt. And honestly, really solid game. I feel like it really encapsulates what the roguelike deck building genre is all about, because that's still like a growing genre of, especially for like indie games. So how the game generally works is you start off with a character and a deck of cards, and you go through like a dungeon where you kind of choose different rooms to go through to reach the end of it. And it's like turn-based combat using the cards to attack. You have a limited amount of like energy per turn, basic stuff for this sort of type of game. And at first I really struggled because I kind of misunderstood the game.
Right.
One of the key elements of it is kind of sustainability and using permanent effects to your advantage. So one of the key things that this game has that Dicey Dungeons sort of didn't really have is what's called relics, and these are like permanent effects that permanently change or buff your character for the rest of your run, where a run will normally takes me like an hour and a half. And these are really important and really shake the game up, every single one of them. And the name of the game actually becomes controlling the chaos. What I've found is that you get so many of these additional effects, and you get so many cards added to your deck that like there's a lot to go on. And ultimately, the way to succeed in the game is to understand all the different effects you have at your disposal to know like, okay, this is the kind of playstyle I need to gear myself towards. Because if you don't control the chaos that you've got yourself into, then the game is difficult enough that you can die at any given point and you just lose all of your progress for that run of the game.
Oh god.
It's really, I mean, sometimes, ultimately, because of the type of game it is, sometimes it comes down to pot luck. Like, I've had runs that take me over an hour, where I then lose at literally the final boss of the run.
Oh, no.
Purely because I didn't, on like a turn where the enemy is projected to do like a big attack, and this was one that annoyed me, so I'm gonna say specifically.
Go for it.
I was running a deck where I was going like uber slow, uber defensive. Like all of my cards were defense based, so I wouldn't get hurt. And I was just like doing extremely slow damage. So I got to the final boss of this run, and it took me 2 hours because I was playing slowly. And the enemy was projected to do a huge attack that would have one-hit kill me, but I was like, oh well, it shouldn't be a problem because I have way more than enough defense cards to deal with this. I didn't draw any of them though, by pure luck. The odds of that happening, I checked, were like extremely low. And I just lost like 2 hours of progress, and I was moulding very hard.
I don't know, Kai, that sounds entirely your fault to me. I mean, maybe you just should get better at the game, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that there's a lot of places in the game where, you'll get unlucky and it'll look like you're unlucky.
Yeah.
But if you had better preparation leading up to that, then you wouldn't be.
Right, yeah.
But then there are also cases where it's just bullshit.
Yeah.
Quite frankly. But yeah, overall, I've really enjoyed the game now. Like, I've come around to enjoy it after learning sort of what it wants you to do. And I look forward to probably playing it a bit more in the future, to be honest, because I really like it. I think it's a good introduction to roguelites, definitely, and sort of like understanding how these games work, and that's basically it. Just like, yeah, it's a good game.
Interesting. I mean, deck building games are not really my kind of thing. They scare me, I'm not gonna lie. But I did watch I think it was Nintendo Capri Sun play some Dicey Dungeons, and I sort of, watching one being played out, it sort of got the appeal of it a bit more, and I did see how it could be kind of fun. And I do technically own Slay the Spire because I claimed it on PS Plus, so I can't claim that I'm going to get around to it anytime soon, but maybe I'll try it out eventually, because you have given it quite a good recommendation there, so...
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I'll keep an eye out for it. But the reason why I probably won't get around to it anytime soon is because of the second game that I've been playing this month. Kai knows. It's Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Apparently the further along I get in the podcast, the more I lose my ability to speak. But yeah, Lego Star Wars. I mean, I love Lego Star Wars. I've always been a huge fan. You know I'm a massive Star Wars fan, and I revel in any opportunity to talk about it on this podcast.
Yeah.
But particularly Lego Star Wars. Lego Star Wars, the original, is what got me into Star Wars in the first place. So the Lego games have a special place in my heart, and I was definitely looking forward to getting this and picking it up. And, you know, I've not been disappointed. It is a really fun game. I think I do have a few more problems than other people, and it's mostly not... It's more subjective stuff than objective problems with the game. But the first thing I think is worth pointing out is, if you love Lego Star Wars games for the traditional levels, you're not going to get that so much here. I think recent Lego games have been moving more and more towards open world aspects. I mean, not like Breath of the Wild open world, but having these big open areas where you can explore and do side quests and collect whatever it is, golden bricks, kyber bricks, whatever the collectible of the game is. They've been doing that gradually, but this time they've gone all in with it. With like, I don't know the number, but it's over 20 different planets to explore freely, with multiple different locations on those planets as well. There is a lot to do, and it is no easy feat to get 100%, but I'm gonna bloody well try. It might cost my soul, but in the process of that though, you do lose the charm of the original style of traditional levels. They are there. For each movie there are 5 levels, but they're much shorter, and some of them are almost more like mini-games. I think particularly for me, I found that I had a bit of a bad first start, because I think I did it in chronological order, episode 1 to 9. And I think the prequels do have the worst levels of the bunch. Particularly episode 1 has the most, not bad, but the most basic levels. The sequels and the original trilogy, like episode 4, do have some more levels that brought back that nostalgic feeling of playing the originals games as a kid. So there is part of that there. It's just much more condensed. The focus is much more on exploring the bigger worlds. And if you're okay with that, and you're able to embrace that, you're going to have a good time here, because there's just so much to do. It's Lego games. The basic gameplay is, you know what to expect. Break loads of shit and collect studs. That's all you're doing. But it is fun. The light puzzle solving, the little bits of platforming, just being able to play as characters like your favourite Jedi, but also Jar Jar Binks and Salacious B. Crumb and Sai Snootles. Even someone like Yarrowpuff.
Can you play as Ki-Adi-Mundi?
You can play as Ki-Adi-Mundi. He's there.
Let's go!
You can play as a Gonk droid, Kai. So, in fact, there is a bonus mode that turns all of the NPCs into Gonk droids. So,
yes,
need I say more? The other day when I streamed playing it, I unlocked Galaxy Rave, or Galactic Party or whatever, which basically turns the entire galaxy into a big disco, with disco Star Wars music playing. Every character dances, there's flashing lights, planets turn into giant disco balls as you fly at them in space. It's wild. I'll need to clip you and send you that, Kai, because it is really funny. But it's just ridiculously charming, this game. It is full of just obscure references to like book characters or Star Wars memes. Like, there was a reference to one of the actors is also in Lord of the Rings, and there was a reference to that in the dialogue. It's got so much humour, and you can tell that the developers loved what they were doing and loved Star Wars, and that is just what makes it really fun to play. So, just based on that, I cannot recommend it enough. I mean, there are some problems, like, it's a Lego game, it's going to be a little glitchy. I've had more than one occasion where characters just start freaking out. And not because of the dance party mode, just generally freaking out. I've also, I will say my biggest problem is, whilst the gameplay has been improved a bit, like, so there's some combat has a bit more depth to it, with different combos you can do with air attacks and stuff. You can juggle enemies in a way. It's a bit more complex than just mashing the attack button like it was in older games. But flying controls they've actually made worse than the last game, Lego Force Awakens. Somehow. It's not... The controls aren't bad, they're serviceable. It's just weird how they made them objectively worse when they were perfect. So basically what they've done, and this is going to be my rant of the episode because it's a pet peeve of mine that no one else probably cares about. But in Lego Force Awakens, to control a spaceship, you control your basic direction with the left analog stick, which makes sense. With the right stick, left and right would allow you to rotate your ship, and then up and down would either make you go faster or slower. So you could control your speed, movement and perspective with just those two analog sticks, and it allowed you full control of your ship to pull off some crazy manoeuvres that just felt really cool. But in this game, it's exactly the same, except the right stick no longer controls your speed up and down. Up and down does nothing. Instead, you have to press X to boost forwards. And what that means is that you don't have your right thumb on the right analog stick, so you can't rotate and speed at the same time. Which means that if you want to do cool manoeuvres, you have to stop moving to do them, which completely defeats the objective. And it's just it would be such
fluid.
Yeah, it would be such an easy fix to just make it like it controlled in the original. Even Star Wars Squadrons, the game dedicated to flying, basically uses that control system from upgrades. So I don't know why they changed it. It makes flying sections less fun than they could be, but don't let that put you down. That's just a big rant from me. It's a pet peeve, but really it's fine, and the game is great. So I will end again. Gonk Droid is in there. That's all you need. So
let's go.
It's a really fun time. But that is all I've got to mention about the game. Have you got any other games you want to bring up, Kai, or are we done here?
I think we're done here for today.
Alright then, let's end off the podcast then. So thank you so much guys for watching this. We do appreciate you guys sticking around. We've got plenty more coming up in the next few months. We'll hopefully get Mario Party going. There's going to be more gaming news, I'm sure. We're approaching sort of E3 season, which even without E3, we're going to be some announcements. So please stick around, be it on the YouTube channel or the podcast sites like Spotify. It's all under the name BunchaJokahs. You can find the rest of our content. But also, Kai, where else can people find you at?
They can find me at twitch.tv/Fascurreyn. I'm still going through Resolve. I will be for a little bit longer still. We're
getting there. We're in some really good stuff, so if you don't mind spoilers, definitely check it out.
We're in deep.
We are.
But yeah, I'm over there. I'm chilling. So come and hang out if you want.
Yeah, there'll be a link to that in the description below. And of course, a big thanks to our graphic designer Sam, who does all the logo, the channel graphics that you see, and the thumbnail. So big thank you, Sam. Put a link to his Twitter in the description below. But in general, yeah, hope you guys have a good time with the rest of the gaming year. Stick around, please, and we'll see ya in the next video. Goodbye.
Goodbye.